This is a production of Florida State University.
Welcome to this February edition of FSU Headlines. I'm Mark Vaughn with the latest news from Florida State University. In our top headline this month, more students earn bachelor's degrees in 4 years or less at Florida State University than at any other public university in the state of Florida. Florida State's four-year graduation rate is now 74%. That places FSU first among all state university system institutions. More significantly, it's the highest four-year graduation rate in state history. Florida State's upward trajectory in student success didn't happen overnight. The four-year graduation rate has risen steadily in recent years as a result of careful and strategic investments in academic advising, tutoring, and academic coaching. The graduation rate also places FSU in the top 15 nationally among public institutions.
The 74% graduation rate in 4 years, though, is really quite phenomenal. Not only is it the best in the state of Florida, it's also in the top 10 in the nation. So we're particularly pleased about that. Graduating in 4 years is better for students. They incur less debt. They can then, at a faster pace, go into their careers, start making some money, or go to graduate school, or pursue some other kind of professional education after their regular undergraduate program is fulfilled.
As Florida State University began the 2021 spring semester, one school turned college entered a new era. Last November, the Florida State Board of Trustees approved the renaming of the Dedman School of Hospitality to become FSU's 18th college.
We've worked really hard. It's a program that's over 70 years old, like 73 years old. And I think certainly in the state of Florida, it's deserving to be a college.
Since its founding in 1947, the school's slate of academic offerings has grown to include 2 undergraduate degrees, 2 minors, and a master's program. The college has also made a rapid ascent in prominent hospitality rankings.
We're now 15th in the world and 7th in the United States. And we haven't really been chasing rankings at all. We just do what we did better. And we're doing some different things. And I think it's getting the attention of our peers and of the industry.
Hands-on experience is a large feature of Dedman programs. Students have internships and study abroad opportunities around the world, including a 50-year-old international program in Switzerland. And while the global pandemic has impacted this programming and the entire hospitality industry, Dean Farr remains optimistic for the future of the newly minted college and the industry it educates its students to lead.
Our students will be more creative and will, understand how to resolve challenges like a global epidemic. I am a firm believer that the recovery will be led by hospitality and tourism companies and corporations, and our students are going to play a great part in it. I think it's a fabulous time to be a hospitality student.
Well, this past spring, the college added a new undergraduate degree program in recreation, tourism, and events. The program was previously housed in the College of Applied Studies at FSU Panama City. Florida State University is doing its part to help vaccinate the community and reduce the spread of COVID-19. The university began administering the first round of vaccines to faculty, staff, and students aged 65 and older in early 2021.
So today we are excited in partnership with the Florida Department of Health to begin vaccinating our 65 and older population here in our FSU community. We've also all begun vaccinating our frontline healthcare workers. And so the process is really easy, it's streamlined, and then following their immunization, they are observed for the appropriate period of time, and then that's it, they're all done.
It's really important for seniors like myself. Having access to vaccine is going to be a life changer in terms of what I can do. So this is a fabulous opportunity. It's going to clearly improve people's opportunity to participate in society much more easily. And that's an important piece of successful longevity, being able to participate, not feeling socially isolated.
We're all in this together, right? This is a community-wide issue, a national, global issue. And so it's a really important intervention to receive the vaccine to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. because it's important that everybody get the vaccine, it's a large task to get this vaccine out to as many people as we can, as efficiently as possible. I'm tremendously proud to work at Florida State University. This has absolutely been an interprofessional, collaborative endeavor. Everybody has given 110%, from our frontline healthcare workers, our administrators, our IT, technology team. It really takes a village to put this together, and in collaboration with our local county and state public health officials. So I'm just very grateful to be part of this incredibly important and historic moment in public health.
Vaccine distribution has since transitioned to the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center. For more, you can visit uhs.fsu.edu. Well, Florida State University recently honored the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during its 33rd annual MLK Week. The week-long celebration placed special emphasis on the role of Black women and their continued legacy.
When we think about Dr. King, what he often said is that this movement isn't about me. So then who was the movement about, Dr. King? That's the question. And one of those people and one of those identities that it's about is Black women, right? So I want people to make that leap and connection there, and how that's why we make Coretta Scott King the visual for the week, is because I need people to know that this is not about Dr. King. He said it himself. This is not about me. This is about us. And when we speak about us, we have to speak specifically.
The primary celebration event featured an insightful talk by award-winning journalist, author, and minister Barbara Reynolds. The renowned writer highlighted Coretta Scott King's contributions to the civil rights movement, while also telling attendees how they can keep the dream alive today.
That's what we have to do, is keep our eyes on the prize. The prize is looking out for the other people, for keep moving and pushing so that people coming behind us can go farther than we would.
I want people to take from this is what they take from it. It says cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? Right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because because one's consciousness tells one that it is right. And that's what I want people to take from this week.
As the nation reckons with deepening polarization and new challenges to democracy, Florida State University's Institute of Politics officially kicked off its speaker series, A Celebration of Civility. The 4-part virtual series was a time for people of all political persuasions to come together after a tough election season and to start talking.
The mission of the Institute is to encourage civic engagement and political participation and public service among students and citizens in the community. And this, we felt that the highlighting civility and public discourse was really important, given the tensions that we've seen recently, and in both in the electoral process and then most recently with riots and protesters and the really tragic events that happened most recently at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. And we felt that this was really important, that we highlight that we really can get along despite political differences, right?
The first event presented a roundtable discussion featuring transition team members from past presidential administrations. Another discussion covered how changes in the media and politics have affected press coverage in the current political climate. A keynote featuring U.S. Senators Mitt Romney and Joe Manchin was postponed and will be held at a later date. For updates, visit iop.fsu.edu. Well, coming up next on FSU Headlines, an FSU-produced film makes waves at film festivals across the globe. We'll show you how this underwater dance film was brought to life when FSU Headlines continues in a moment.
At Florida State University, we're proving that students from all walks of life can achieve at the highest levels. We're proving that intellect, creativity, service, and daring matter. We're proving the next generation can do more than dream of a better world. They can make it happen. We are Florida State University.
When you buy a Florida State University license plate,
You're not just showing your school spirit.
You're supporting students like us.
in the lab,
In the classroom.
And in the library.
putting this tag on your vehicle helps Florida State students achieve their dreams. So show your pride. Purchase an FSU license plate today.
Welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Mark Vaughn. As COVID-19 continues to bring changes to education, public media is working to ensure that children, especially those in low-income communities, aren't left behind. Late last year, WFSU announced that it is again the recipient of a Ready to Learn grant. The funding is designed to help children prepare for school with new and innovative educational content.
And we're one of 12 stations in the country to receive this funding that will allow us to do sort of, I would say, try out experimental ways to take the content and engage our local community. So we'll be working with partners, whether it's we'll be including our school districts, some of our early childcare providers, educators, and families to kind of learn how to use this content to expand the learning in their own setting. And one really interesting part of this grant is that they want to look at how they can model effectively and appropriately career ideas for young children. So that's going to be really interesting, and it's going to open us an opportunity to work with some new partners.
The outreach work targets Title I schools and community organizations in order to help children with the most need.
We've traditionally had partners with the Early Learning Coalition. So we have a partnership with the Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida, which is sort of over in Panama City area. And then we work with a coalition here in the Big Bend, Leon, McCullough, Gadsden County area. We work with school districts, mostly Title I schools, and those are schools where they demonstrate a higher need. So we target those because this grant is really focused on really trying to help level the playing field and give opportunities to children who come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So that's a big goal of this grant as well.
WFSU is one of just a dozen stations in the country to receive this funding. The grant is a 5-year commitment, and WFSU's estimated share of the award will be about $100,000. Students from a local Tallahassee elementary school had a very unique arts and cultural experience in their classroom. And that's thanks to Florida State University's opening nights. A genre-breaking duo performed for students to teach them the unlimited potential of music.
All right, you guys are in for a very special treat. We're gonna get to watch the Black Violin live in concert in our music room at Oak Ridge Elementary School.
Hope you guys are having a good time out there. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. And we're here to tell you that we're here to break stereotypes, and we challenge you guys to do the same. They told us that we weren't supposed to play the violin, so that's why we not only played it, but we took it and tried to do something completely different with it.
And I hope that they go home and they are inspired to make music or like they talk about in the Black Violin. Whatever they're passionate about, I want them to be inspired to go home and work hard at that.
I think it's extremely important that our children are connected to the arts, and through the experience that they're having today, they get to see people who look just like them, playing classical instruments, but engaging with them in a way that is completely non-traditional.
We challenge you guys to do the same thing. Take the violin, viola, just do it in a way that nobody has ever done it, and you could maybe do something that can change the world, all right?
Centennial Bank is one of our sponsors that comes in and helps us with a lot of our education outreach. They're great friends of Leon County schools and are very supportive, and we would not be able to do this without them and their loyalty to the program and opening nights in class.
In one of their songs, they say, making the impossible possible. You know, to me, it's just very important for them to see and making a difference in people's lives.
Show the world the impossible is possible.
My teachers motivate me a lot because, like, sometimes I'm down, sometimes I'm up. So, like, my emotions are up and down. So I say my teacher, my family, my friends, and I'll say about God too. So I'll say my friends and family and God. That's what motivates me.
Show the world the impossible is possible.
I tell myself that I know I can do this. I need to focus, stay hard, and stay strong.
The impossible is possible. It's up to us to show the world the impossible is possible.
You have to try to be better than what you think you are, and nothing's impossible.
It's up to us to show the world the impossible is possible.
You should have hope in yourself so you could live a good life and be able to accomplish things that you think is hard.
Show the world the impossible is possible.
It's a story of disenfranchisement, self-discovery, and transformation. The FSU-produced film Liminality is a unique reimagining of the classic fairy tale Swan Lake, and it's sweeping awards at film festivals across the globe. Liminality has been screened and officially selected for 11 prestigious film festivals worldwide. That includes winning Best Film Production and People's Choice Award at the Inspired Dance Film Festival Australia 2020.
It's a big thing for me to be able to create work that resonates with people who are dancers, but also non-dancers, which is part of the reason why I create a lot of staged work with projections. But just something to give them something with that symbiotic relationship I create with projections and dancers, that it makes sense and they get something out of it. And I felt like there was something beautiful about Annalie in this, because she's just stunning, where, you know, you see it on her face, you see it in her movement, even her descending, you know, even her falling, the gentleness of the soul, you know, like, it was all very clear for non-dancers. And that was one thing I really felt so loved and appreciated for, is that they also got it, you know, that they also were fans, that they touched them. And that's really, for me, what it's all about. It's just inspiring.
Inspired by Swan Lake, Liminality explores the transition dancer's experience between working as a professional dancer and retirement to a different career path.
So it's very much about transitions we have in our life, and some things have to end, and there's something else that's brewing and coming into manifestation for us. And so this film is really an experience of that place in between one reality and another. And so it feels very surreal. It's entirely underwater. We never have any shots where the dancer breaks the surface. The music is really beautiful. It was composed by Lincoln Sandham, who's also a graduate student with the College of Music here at Florida State University. We were so lucky to have connected with him. And so it's an original score and everything underwater. It's a transition and choosing the next step, and also believing in yourself and fighting for that next. You're fighting for a new life, or whatever that looks like.
Coming up next on FSU Headlines, a Florida State University archive opens a new window of understanding about a 14-year-old civil rights icon. We'll show you how one professor is uncovering untold stories of his life in the historic Mississippi Delta when FSU Headlines continues in just a moment. Welcome back to FSU Headlines. During a time when the continuing struggle for human rights is prevalent in the nation's consciousness, the importance of stories of American civil rights cannot be understated. That's why rhetorical studies professor Davis Houck created the Emmett Till Archives and brought them to Florida State University. Reporter Emily Peters has the story.
Fannie Lou Hamer, professor of rhetorical studies, Davis Houck is a professor in the College of Communication and Information at Florida State University.
I was in Dr. Houck's class in fall of 2019. I think it was a really interesting class. I learned a lot about race and rhetoric in the United States. It was really exciting because he always was enthusiastic about everything he taught. Really made me excited to learn it. Out of all my classes at Florida State, I can easily say that that was the class I've learned the most in and got the most out of.
Houck teaches a variety of courses at FSU. His true passion, however, is buried deep in the Mississippi Delta. For many years, Houck has been an expert on the Emmett Till case of 1955.
So Emmett is a 14-year-old boy. He is from Chicago, and he comes to Money, Mississippi to visit his family in August of 1955. And Emmett's kind of the life of the party.
The trip over to the Bryant grocery store was a part of the fun adventure that Emmett and his family, the young boys, were having.
Although certain details remain clouded, it is clearly known that at some point he whistled at the storekeeper, Carolyn Bryant. This act was detrimental in the Deep South, where black men were not to flirt with white women.
3 days later, her husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, show up at the house, go room to room, looking for him, eventually find him, take him physically out of the house, and that's the last time his family ever saw him again. Several hours later, they had driven up to a different county, taken him to a seed barn where several men tortured, beat, mutilated, killed him.
Emmett's mother, Mamie Till Bradley, committed the most courageous and stunning act that explains why we continue to remember her son to this day.
She forces the funeral home to open the casket. It's closed, it's sealed, it's not supposed to be open. And she opens the box and there's this horribly disfigured thing. She can't even identify that this is her son. And then she did something that changed the whole case, which, and the reason we're talking about it right now, is she allowed the photographers to come in and take pictures.
I lived about 16 miles from the place where he was killed. One of my uncles came to visit us, and he brought a copy of, I believe it was Jet magazine, and the centerfold was Emmett Till. It did not look like a human being. It was Emmett Till in the casket.
The media coverage of Emmett's murder and the trial that followed created a countless array of documents that were published throughout the United States. These documents lacked a permanent home until Davis Houck created the only existing Emmett Till archives at Florida State University.
I did a book with one of my students here at Florida State, Matt Grindy, who was doing a dissertation on the Till case. And I was always interested in, because it is a press story, right? It's a story about how the press covered the case. That's how it got its legs in our country.
Houck's curiosity led him to Mississippi, where he began an accumulation of documents. As his collection grew, he realized Strozier Library's special collections and archives would be the perfect home for Emmett's paper's final resting place.
When I approached Julia Zimmerman, who was then the dean of Strozier Library, she was the one who said, yes, Florida State would totally want to do this. If you can help us do it, let's do it.
There was really no question to me from the beginning of the proposal that it was not only something that was quite feasible, something that FSU and FSU libraries could absolutely participate in and help with.
It was like the grandest of dreams that someone would do, and it would be here in the city where I live.
Houck also incorporates the archives into his classroom by allowing students to digitize delicate documents.
As a teacher, I really love it when students can get in with primary source documents.
We wrote a paper and we scanned different pieces of the newspapers and different pictures, different articles.
For students to be able to compare the white press and the black press, put them side by side, essentially same stories, same day, and come to, ooh, these writers were coming to very, very different conclusions.
And as conclusions are found, Houck is extremely optimistic for the future of these special collections.
Davis has been a remarkable inspiration for me in a number of ways, but I think that this is the capstone because it's not just personal me stuff. It's there for everyone and for time, all time.
Our mission in hosting the Emmett Till Archives is not to own Emmett Till's story.
We don't own the story. It's not ours to own. It's ours to help share. And so that's what Florida State's been very good about, is understanding that and then enacting it in all kinds of ways.
Houck and his team will continue sharing Emmett's story by continuing to digitize more and more documents while expanding an archive that represents growth for Florida State University and society as a whole. Houck's team will also expand upon their central theme to tell more untold stories of the historic Mississippi Delta. I'm Emily Peters, reporting.
The creation of these archives has encouraged many others to come forward with additional documents surrounding the Till case. The future is looking very bright for Emmett Till scholars around the country as the home for their materials continues to grow. That's going to do it for this edition of FSU Headlines, but remember, you can keep up with all things Florida State University online at news.fsu.edu. For everyone here at Florida State, I'm Mark Vaughn. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.